What's up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker here in St. Augustine, Florida, coming at you live every Wednesday at 8 p.m., going over the market stats, the news you know about, everything about buying, selling, or investing here in Northeastern Florida, and we're also doing a Q&A. Sorry for the late start here today. Technical difficulties. It's my dog in the background. Technical difficulties. It seems that the software I was using didn't want to work. So hopefully it continues to work here as we move forward throughout this live stream. We'll see. I've been having some issues with it. Technology in me, for whatever reason, works for everyone else, and there's like one thing for me it doesn't work for. So very bothersome sometimes. So let's see if I don't even know if we're connected right now, which is very frustrating. But what we'll do is just run through this, and I guess it'll just post as a video if anything. So, oh, looks like we got one person. Good. Okay, good. All right, wasn't sure if we were working here. All right, we're gonna head over to the market stats. We'll start off with that. So this is August 2025 market stats, past 13 months. We're only in St. Johns County looking at single family residences with a median sale price of $550,000. And we've really been hovering around this 550 mark for the past couple of years. You can see down in terms of prices, 7.4% from July, which that happens every single year. We have seasonality, and typically May, June, July are our busiest months, and August, September, October start to trend downwards. Closed sales down 1% from last month, so nothing crazy, but down almost 10% from this time last year. And I'm interested to see what happens in September, and we're going to talk more about this in terms of interest rates, Fed cut in the future in this video. But I'm interested to see how this September looks compared to September, October, November looks compared to last year and even prior to the pandemic. Pretty interested in that. Median days on market, 55 days. List price received, 97.2%. So, I know a lot of people have been really worried about that inventory climbing, and that's one thing I was mentioning before, at least in the other live stream I had going that didn't work, is inventory climbing, and it's been climbing very quickly since 2022. And once again, it's a reaction of the market where you got to think we had such crazy lows during 2021 and parts of 2022 that was not sustainable for a housing market. We were seeing appreciation in some instances in properties. So it really wasn't a great situation for a lot of people in buying and selling. So we've started to see inventory actually kind of level off in the past month. I didn't pull this up here, but new listings are down 28% from last month and down 7.5% from this time last year. So, and that's just this information right here. I can't highlight here. Okay, cool. So that could be a sign of our market, either one, heating up, so more people are coming to the market and buying these homes, or two, which is the more likely, people have gotten frustrated and say, hey, I wasn't able to sell my house at the price I wanted. I'm taking it off the market. I'm going to figure out something else. So more than likely, they're going to rent it to someone. And that comes from most people being in a very strong equity position, right? They don't necessarily need to sell. They want to sell. And that's one thing I think that's important. There's people that need to sell, right? And there's people that are like, yeah, I'll sell if I get this price, right? And those people who are, yeah, I'll sell and I'll get this if I can get this price, they're kind of like, okay, well, I'm not getting the price I want. I'm taking it off the market. So that's kind of what we're seeing. We're going to keep our eye on it, especially as we head into these fall months. I really want to see how September, October, November plays out compared to this time last year. So we'll stay on top of that. Let's go ahead and hop into the news stories. Do we have any questions? No questions here. Guys, if you have any questions about what we're covering, let me know. It's my dog in the background. He wants to come in the room, and then once I get started on something, immediately wants to leave. So give me a sec. Spoiled ass dogs. All right, so let's go on to the news story here, and this is going to be what we were just talking about here. Fed announces first rate cut in 9 months, signals more reductions to come. So originally, this year we were only supposed to have 2 rate cuts. So we've had 2, and that's what they were saying. Hey, we're only going to do 2, but now we're looking at potential 2 more by the end of the year. So we only have 3 more meetings. So I imagine what they're going to do is probably cut here 25 basis points and wait until probably October, and then cut another 25 and probably do, or not October, wait till November, cut another 25 then, and maybe do a Christmas present, cut another 25 there. So it's all potential. It's all up in the air. It's not written in stone. But the one thing that a lot of people were expecting is that the Fed was to cut to 50 basis points. So some people are saying 25 basis points isn't enough. And if just quick short term, the Fed and the federal funds rate essentially controls short term lending here in the country, which indirectly correlates to 30-year mortgages. So if more rate cuts happen, then you should expect lower mortgage rate. They're not the same thing, but they do kind of correlate in a way. I could spend an hour talking about this, and there's not really a great way to explain it. You just really need to dive into it. It's kind of like the weirdest system ever. If someone couldn't make it up, well, someone made it up obviously, but wish they would have did a better job at this. But yeah, so that leads us to mortgage rates, right? And now mortgage rates actually have gone up since this news has been out. So that's contrary to everything you just said, Tom. Like you just said, mortgage rates would go down. Well, you got to think the market is typically pricing in the expectation of what the Fed's already doing, right? So pretty much everyone was like, all right, the Fed's going to make a cut because they have to. The job market's super weak. They got to do something. Inflation's pretty much where it needs to be. They got to do something with the job market. So the cut was expected. How much of a cut was, most people were voting on the 25% basis point versus the 50 basis point. So it was all expected. If it would have been 50, I would imagine that interest rates actually would have went up even further than they did today. And they didn't go up much. I think they're around 6.2, whereas yesterday they were at 6.15. So much better than where we were earlier in the year. We're at 6.7, 7%. Better than 6.5 we were just at like a month ago. So all of this is positive news for anyone looking to buy a house, because at the end of the day, I don't see prices going. Real estate's a very slow moving asset. So if prices go up, typically prices go down. Typically it's taking a longer time for those to go up and those to go down. So the best way to affect affordability for people to get people back in the housing market is going to be quantitative easing with the interest rates. So we can spend a whole day talking about this, guys, but we're going to go on to the next news story here. Any questions about what I just covered there, let me know in the comments below. I didn't organize my news stories here, but Florida approves 10 insurers to take policies from state-run Citizens in December. I actually just put out this article here. Citizens policies decreased from 1.4 million in 2023 to 771,000 today. So they're looking to unload another 254,000 policies from Citizens. And if you're not familiar, I know many of you are watching from out of state, but Citizens is essentially a Florida state-backed insurance company. So like they're supposed to be the last resort. If you can't find insurance on the private market, you can get it from Citizens, right? So that's what it's supposed to be. It's also backed by all the insurance policy carriers in the state of Florida, whether or not you have a Citizens policy. So it technically can't fail, right? I say that and then who knows? 3 hurricanes come through and Citizen fails. Who knows? But that's supposed to be the reason behind it. So the problem is when all these insurers left after a couple 3-4 years ago, when all these hurricanes hit, had massive lawsuits and insurance claims. All these insurers left the state, and now they're starting to come back, right? But when that happened, Citizens absorbed a lot of those policies, right? So they went from, I can't remember, I want to say they had like 300,000 policies, statewide, and they went up to 1.5 million or something like that, something crazy. So it's great that they were still able to get insurance, right? But you got to think of like, hey, this company that's running this, right? Or like, let's say the staffing that they're running it, their caseload 10x'd overnight, right? So it's not a good thing. So seeing this as positive news means that more private insurers are coming back to the state of Florida and starting to write some policies. It's also alleviating the stress on Citizens. But you know what? For any of these insurance companies, guys, you know what the interesting thing is as I read into this more and more is that they actually insure their liability, So like they take out a disaster insurance for themselves to make sure like, hey, if they have to pay a claim, well, then they can take out a claim. It's just like, it's a joke of a system, But hey, we're all here. This is the game that we have. This is the game we got to play. So I like to be as informative as possible. But let's go on to the next news story here, guys. This one's actually, I'm going to skip around here. I didn't organize them. This is actually pretty cool. Habitat for Humanity St. Augustine purchased 32 acres to build 74 single-family homes. It's apparently going to be the largest affordable housing community in the organization's 33-year history. Um, I'm not a subscriber to St. Augustine Record, but that's what you need to know. It's going to be off of the Solomon Calhoun Center. So if you're familiar with West Augustine, which I am a big fan of West Augustine and what it has to offer, it's going to be just adjacent to that. So pretty much anyone who's going to be living, I think it's this parcel right here, if I'm not mistaken. So anyone who's going to be living right here is going to have access to the Solomon Calhoun Center's pool, basketball court, baseball fields. They just built this football field. They don't have a rendering of it yet, but that's going to be very cool. And at the end of the day, Habitat for Humanity is building some actually really nice houses here in the area. They have, let's see if I can pull it up here. Volusia. Okay, wait. So this is one of their older ones. I actually did some volunteer work in this one. Let me, boom. Am I showing my screen? Let me just double check. Make sure I'm sharing my screen. Okay, yeah, great. Where did I drop myself? Okay, so this is Volusia, and then Broach, and this is the community that they built, and the houses are all very nice. Hardy board siding, metal roofs, concrete slab. There's 2 bedrooms, there's 3 bedrooms, and they're all pretty much income driven. It's essentially what they do is 30% of the, it's like from 30% of the area's median income to 120%, and it depends on how many people you have in the household. But they subsidize the mortgages, so you also get a lower housing cost, and they subsidize the mortgages. Typically, they're taking a pretty big loss on it. But the one thing I think is really interesting is everyone says, everyone, or at least the trolls on Facebook will say, "Oh, this is going to be a slum. Just watch." And this place has been up for like 3-4 years now, and like I live right around the corner from this. I drive by it very often. It's a super cute neighborhood. So I'm excited to see what Habitat's been doing some really good work here. They're pretty much the only thing. The government's not doing anything to address the affordable housing issues here. They're talking about it, but they're not doing anything. St. John's County Housing Partnership and Habitat is kind of like the only thing. So I guess St. John's County Housing Partnership is doing something, but is it enough? I don't know. Probably not. All right. On to the next news story here, guys. Let's go ahead and share my screen. This is a quick one here, but I've never ate at this restaurant. Matanzas Innlet Restaurant owner seeks to rebuild beloved seafood shack 8 years after hurricane destruction. So this was destroyed during Hurricane Matthew in 2016. Its longtime owner wants to bring it back. Jerry Galasso proposed to bring back the popular restaurant. He's also going to add a boat ramp, I believe, over there, a floating dock, so you can pull up, which I think will be really cool. It's just another great add to the Intercoastal, and Matanzas Inlet's beautiful as it is. So something to keep an eye out for. We'll see what happens. Let's go here. St. Johns County moves forward with proposed impact fee changes. With the census reached Tuesday's commission meeting, St. Johns County is set to change its impact fees. The updates will apply to residential and non-residential projects. Commissioners provided county staff with direction on implementing a new conservation impact fee, adjusting current fee levels, offering fee discounts for affordable housing projects, and providing updates to the current non-residential buy-down. The exact changes for each aspect of the fees must be defined at the future commission meetings. And that's something that I've actually maybe I stepped in some hot water with, but so in St. Johns County, if you're following the Facebook page of St. Augustine News, it's pretty much the biggest social media gathering place for St. Augustine. You're going to have people that just go on there and shitpost. A lot of the times I try to remain as unbiased as possible, but one of the things that they talk about is county commissioners and St. Johns County being in the pockets of developers, right? Because we've seen so much development here in St. Johns County. It's a big issue. So they're saying all these guys are on the take. They're approving all this stuff, and all the locals are saying we don't want it, but they're approving it anyway. And I don't know if there's very much validity to any of that, right? And every time, and I'm okay if there is. I'm not a part of the government. I want to I want to air it out on social media, right? I'll put it out here. But from what I can tell, there's no evidence. And I ask everyone who posts this stuff, like, hey, can you send me what you're talking about? They never do. So it's one of those situations. But the one thing that I did see was that people are posting that, hey, St. Johns County needs to charge more in their impact fees for all these developers. So impact fees are essentially fees like, hey, if you're building, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars to build, and that goes to the county. So I was always told that St. Johns County is paying the maximum amount that's allowed by the state, and it's set by the state. Looking into this, I found that that's not necessarily true. It's pretty close to true. And I do have, now here's also the other thing. I use ChatGPT because it's a ton of information to go through. And for me to actually like dive deep into this, it'd probably be a full-time job, right? And that's probably why they make it so complicated. So I just used AI and ran it through and asked a couple of questions. And essentially what I could come to across is they're telling half the truth, right? So St. Johns County is charging essentially on most things the most that they can charge for impact fees, but there's different setups. I'm going to be wrong on this, but to just give you an idea, there's categories, right? So residential development, commercial development, residential development with single family homes between 1,500 and 2,500 square feet, residential development with 2,500 to 3,500 square feet. The impact fees are different for both of those. So they're charging maybe higher on one and maybe slightly lower on the other. So it's not like they're not charging anything. They're always charging something. It's the government. Come on, they're going to charge something. So I looked into it and I gave ChatGPT a scenario and I said, hey, based on this, what more could they be charging? And it was maybe the difference of like, we're talking about, and I said, let's stick with residential because residential real estate. What does that look like? And it was like, it gave me the number, and I can pull it up here. I'll probably put a video out on it soon, but I don't want to waste time scrolling through my prompts on ChatGPT. But essentially gave the numbers of like, hey, St. Johns County, per what their fee schedule is charging developers this fee, which is $20,675, right? They could be charging $20,900, right? It was in my opinion, a negligible difference, right? But it's technically true, right? They're not charging their max, right? They're missing a couple $100 there, and a couple $100 over 1,000 homes, over 17,000 homes in Silverleaf, over however many developments we have, is a big number. So why shouldn't we charge that, right? I get both sides. So putting the information out there for you guys. Love to know what your feedback is on that. Maybe no one cares. Maybe I just get too in the weeds. But good evening, Kevin. Appreciate you being here, my man. Hope Lakeland's treating you well. Let's go on to the next news story here. Any questions about the development here in St. Johns County, the impact fees? I'm going to put a video together, but one of these videos is like, this is going to be a labor of love. I guarantee it, because I'm interested in this stuff. But the time that it's going to take for me to put this video together versus like, hey, five neighborhoods that my clients like is way different, you know? So it's going to take me hours and hours. And then I know, just based on doing this for many, many years, that it'll be my like least watched video. I think it's going to be a banger. And then it's like, I get 100 views on it. I'm like, oh man, I put 10 hours into that video. But it is what it is. JJ, you're on a roll. Should I get my tinfoil hat out? Should I get it out? Oh man. JJ, appreciate you being here. Kevin, appreciate you being here. Guys, any questions about what we cover, let me know. Let's go on to the next news story here. Boom. Town of Hastings reclaiming its spirit after years of decline. So Hastings is essentially our only rural town, I would say, in St. Johns County. But it's been revitalizing very quick. It's off 207. There hasn't been much streets been revitalized. Businesses have come back. They actually put like $110 million water treatment facility out there. So it was almost a dead town. Former Hastings mayor from 1982 1990. 2017, the referendum to dissolve as a town was left to the voters, passing at an overwhelming rate. Hastings remains part of unincorporated St. Johns County, one of only 2 towns in the state of Florida to voluntarily dissolve. So, Hastings Main Street opened in 2023, and it's really starting to make a change. The Main Street is now 90 to 95% occupied, a big jump from 80 to 90% occupancy in 2023. Our goal is to have 100%. So, the one thing that's really nice is that Hastings is not that far from St. Augustine. Price point, much better. It's a lot more rural. You're gonna have to drive a little bit more, but like you're so close to downtown St. Augustine and everything that you want there, the beaches and everything, but you can be far enough away to where it's like you're in a completely different world. Like if you're looking at St. Augustine west of 95 on the southern part of the county, completely different than the east side, or sorry, yes, completely different. Like Hastings sides, 206, very rural. You go over the side of 95 and it gets more residential, more I wouldn't say city-like, but more small town-like. But they're very different lifestyles. But that whole area has been dead for a long time, so it's really interesting to see. We got Tracy S here. Oh, Tracy. What are the impact fees used for? That's a good question. It's supposed to be, there's a whole bunch of fees, but that should go towards infrastructure projects, right? So that's what it should go for, because at the end of the day, like if you're putting a house there, well then we have to run the sewer there, we have to run the road there, we have to run the electrical there, all that kind of stuff. So that's primarily what it's for. But I imagine, especially with all these communities that are building massive communities with a ton of homes, the cost to run it versus the cost of just building one, it's probably inverse of each other. So like, let's say if they're building one house here in West Augustine, the impact fees probably go directly and maybe are short of how much it actually costs to hook up the house to all the utilities. Whereas if you're going to a community like Silverleaf where they have 17,000 homes, like they're already putting water, sewer, electrical, roads, all that kind of stuff in there, but they're probably raking in money from that, because once you have the crew out there, is it that much more expensive to continue the work? No. If you have to bring someone out for one home versus 1,000 homes, probably going to be a little bit more expensive. But appreciate your question, Tracy. Hope all is well. Let's go on to the next news story here. I think I got one more here, guys. So any questions, let me know. Oh my gosh. This one's been interesting. St. Johns County advances 2 World Golf Village redevelopment proposals amid ongoing legal dispute. Golftopia, the foundations at World Golf Village, advance, but land use restrictions complicate the redevelopment. So, Golftopia, which I think would be very cool. This is kind of what they're looking at here. Golf, recreation, entertainment, retail, food and beverage, and wellness-focused amenities at World Golf Village. If you've ever been there, it kind of has this layout already, but there's like this center little island. I mean, this would just be kind of like a cool gamified type of area, which I bet you could add like shopping and retail around here too, which would make even more of an attraction. So let's see, they got indoor mini golf and VR golf, the IMAX theater, driving range and disc golf, hotel and convention center, outdoor mini golf, pirate mini golf, hot air balloon launch pad, clubhouse, hot air balloon launch pad. What? Clubhouse, exterior fun and games, indoor fun area and retail, and food and beverage. I mean, this would be, and if you live in that area, you're probably like, please no more, we don't want this, because this is right across the street from Costco and Buc-ee's. So if you were to add like a major tourist attraction, because I think this would geared towards that, right? Like, hey, if you want to come play golf, but you also have little golf games in your backyard for your family, they're close enough to downtown St. Augustine, it makes it easier. You can go golf wherever you want. That's probably what it's geared towards, but the people there are just like in that section, because you have Super Walmart going in, you got Home Depot already there, car dealership going in, Bass Pro, Costco, and Buc-ee's, all essentially right across. They're all right there. So it's kind of a mess. I'm surprised that all of these things have gotten approved, but it is what it is. I don't run things. So fountains at World Golf Village comes from Urgisi Acquisitions and Cross Regions Real Estate, envisions medical treatment facilities, independent living, retail, restaurants, and commercial space. The team plans to renovate and repurpose existing facilities while adding new construction with projected completion in September 2027 and operations beginning in October 2027. So that is an interesting concept too, right? Because as of right now, it's like pretty much unused commercial space. So if they were to add like some living space there and put some commercial space like to work, kind of be like a walkable, living slash working area, co-working area, that would be really cool. And also, it probably wouldn't hurt as much in terms of traffic as Golftopia. What do I think is cooler? I mean, I think Golftopia is cooler. What I think is more realistic? Probably the fountains at World Golf Village. So, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. I think that's the last one I got here for you today. Let me just double check. That's going to be it, guys. I appreciate you being here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. going over the market stats that you need to know about. The market stats, the news you need to know about, and if you have any questions, I'm giving the answers live. Also answering any comments. Kevin, JJ, Tracy, I appreciate you guys being here and for engaging on the content. We'll see you next week, guys. Have a good one.